this out.
You're gonna learn today.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad. And as always, we're here having conversations with community leaders, community activists, political figures, and everyday people. If you'd like to join the conversation, you're welcome to do so by going to facebook.com/Lakeside Chat. Today, we're very fortunate to have a special guest here with us, Mr. Larry Newsome, a local businessman, entrepreneur, and community development specialist, and a whole lot of other things. But we're really excited to have you, and we want to welcome you to the Lakeside Chat.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for inviting me.
So for those who don't know, who is Mr. Larry Newsome? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've been a resident. I'm a native Floridian. I was born and raised in Bradenton, in Manatee County, actually, because I lived in Bradenton and Palmetto at different times in my life. I went to school over there, went to Manatee Community College, and when I graduated from there, I went to the University of South Florida in Tampa.
Okay.
And after I left there, I went to Atlanta and spent 2 years working for a public accounting firm. Then I moved back to St. Petersburg and became employed by a company at the time that was Florida Power Corporation.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I worked for Florida Power for 25 years. I started out in their special reports department as an accountant. When I left the company, I was a senior vice president of finance for their real estate development subsidiary, a company called Echelon.
I remember seeing Echelon signs.
Yeah, they're out there. We started that company up in 1996. We actually spun that company out as a separate publicly traded company in 1996, and we built apartment complexes all over the southeast and the southwest United States. I was their chief financial officer. And in the year 2000, we actually took the company back and made it a private company.
Okay.
And after we made the company a private company again, I decided I wanted to do something a little more, community intensity for the rest of my working career.
Right.
And so I decided I would see what I could do to make a difference in Midtown.
Okay.
I've learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about taxes. I learned a lot about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, in 25 years, 30 plus years.
Exactly.
Right.
I wanted to take the skill sets that I had and see if I could apply them to some of the issues that were going on in Midtown.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I set up a company called Urban Development Solutions. And Urban Development Solutions developed the property over on 18th Avenue South and 22nd Street, the Midtown Plaza. Mm-hmm. It was originally called Queensboro Plaza, but we changed the name to Midtown Plaza after the Walmart took over as the anchor tenant in that shopping center.
Okay.
Did other projects other places, but the other big project that we did in Midtown was the Manhattan Casino and Sylvia's Queen and Soul restaurant.
Okay. Got it.
So that's what I've spent the last 15, 16 years of my life doing, just trying to develop projects, trying to create jobs and opportunities for people to work in the communities that they live in.
Nice.
In Midtown. And so that's basically what I've been doing for the last 15, 16 years.
Okay. And then you mentioned 1996, and in St. Petersburg history, that's a significant, year with the riots and a lot of things that happened in that year. So where were you as far as your company and your development at that point? And
well, what happened was 1996 was an extremely busy year for me, but it was busy on the professional corporate side of my career. We had been working on a plan to spin out Echelon and several other companies that Florida Power Corporation had acquired when they were in a diversification strategy. Mm-hmm. And I came up with this idea of putting all of these companies together and just spinning them out as a separate publicly traded company rather than being a part of the Florida Power umbrella any longer, that we would be a part of the our own umbrella. We'd be a new company that people can buy and sell the stock on the New York Stock Exchange.
Right.
So that's what I did. So those were times when I worked 50, 60, 70 hours a week trying to get that company spun out into a separate publicly traded company. We actually achieved that result in December of 1996.
Okay.
And so I was here, but I wasn't here because probably half of that year I spent in New York City working on the spinoff.
Okay, got it. Excellent. And so with the Walmart being there in the Plaza, you said you developed that, and was there another part that you developed? Because what was it like on Tangerine Avenue? They call it Tangerine, people from here, but on 18th Avenue, did you have anything to do with that development by the wash house down there, a little further down, where Bernie's is and those places? Because that all happened around the same time, right?
No. The only development on 18th Avenue that we were involved in was the shopping center. And that was a tough project to get done. And the reason that it was a tough project to get done is that I didn't know it, and most other people don't realize it, but most people assume if you drive in a community, you don't see a Walgreens, you don't see a supermarket, you don't see a clothing store, that they just don't want to be there. But the truth of the matter is, all of those people, all of them develop operating models that they use to determine which communities that they go in. And it's based primarily upon income levels, demographics, crime levels, all sorts of things.
They do homework.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a model that they've already developed, so it's not like they, create a model every time they look at a community. It's the same model. They put the same information into that model.
Okay.
And the model is based upon what were the criteria, so what were the specific things that happened when we created a successful store.
Okay.
What happened in, where the communities are that were successful.
Right.
And what were the characteristics, what were the demographics, and all of those kinds of things. What created the success for us in the past? They put all of those things into a model, and so when they go to the next place, they put all of the demographics and all of those things into the model.
It's like what we call a template, right?
Yeah, a template.
Right.
They put all of the information into a template to see if it works.
Right.
And if it works, then you might have a fairly good chance, assuming they can raise the capital to get it done, of having a store there. If you don't meet the requirements of that template, you don't get a store. One of the real serious problems that communities like Midtown have is that there are so few stores that have templates in which communities like Midtown work.
Okay.
Now you have stores like the Family Dollar and places like that.
What did they come in and thrive?
Yeah, they learned a long time ago how to make money in those communities. And my thought process is the grocery stores are eventually going to have to learn how to make money, and all the rest of the stores, because the minority population in the country is increasing dramatically. And you can't go for the next 20 or 30 years with the same strategy that I'm going to be a suburban grocery store and serve primarily white clientele. If you don't figure out how to serve the black ones and the brown ones, you're going to have a hard time struggling on a going forward basis.
Right.
My thought process is eventually all of them are going to have models that they can develop in communities similar to Midtown that will work.
And so you said with the project that you did at that time, there was no model?
There was no model. It didn't work. And what happens then is, how can you put together a project and make it happen in a community where the models say this will not work? Okay. In other words, how can I get a grocery store in a community that there's no model that says that this grocery store there is going to work in that community? And so you're already starting out with an uphill battle. Yeah, you're starting out with an uphill battle because the models say this store is not going to work. So you ask yourself, what can I do to make this model work? What can I fit into it? Well, the first thing you figure out is that how much can the demographics of that particular community support? If it can't support a full-service grocery store, say, I'm just going to give you an example. in order for me to have a full service grocery store, I need to make $100 a week.
Okay.
At that grocery store in order for it to be successful. But my community says I can only spend $25 a week in that grocery store. How can I make, what do I have to do to make a grocery store work that can only generate $25 a week?
Right.
And if I can make that, if I can get my cost structure right, I can make that work. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. Because grocery store is primarily throughput. How much, the vast majority of grocery stores have to sell a lot of grocery to be successful because the profit margins are so small.
Right.
But anyway, what we did was we developed a model that said, all right, if we rent you this space for half of what somebody would normally rent it to you in a normal market condition, we give you money to reduce your to reduce the amount of capital that you got to put into this store. We'll give you some money to help you with our inventory coverage and things like that.
Okay.
In other words, how much money or how much benefit do we have to create in a package to make this project work for you?
Okay.
And then after you do that, you get a cost structure that's dramatically different from what they would normally see in a normal package.
Okay.
But even after you've done all of that, you still got to get a lot of people on board pushing for it. A lot of people don't know it, but Jeb Bush, who was then governor of the Florida at the time, was one of the key players in us getting the Sweet Bay to come to.
Really?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. In order to attract that franchise. And you're not the first person I heard that said Jeb Bush, he had money flowing through the Bay Area.
It sure was. He didn't invest any money. He called upon the people that owned cash and carry at the time to make the investment in the community.
Okay.
And a lot of times you have to have political support, political clout, and things from people that you might not necessarily expect that you're going to get it from.
Right.
I mean,
it's what we call, and what we're working towards now is developing these non-traditional allies.
Yes.
Because a traditional ally or traditional alliance would say, well, Jeb Bush, he's a Republican, don't talk to him, you can't use his help.
It's been my thought process is that there are good people in all parties. Don't believe that all Democrats are great and Republicans are bad, or vice versa.
Right.
What I've discovered is that there are people of goodwill in all the parties out there, and a lot of them are willing to help you with your projects if they think that the project is viable and makes some sense. Anyway, we on that particular project, we got a lot of people together that provided the political support for the project, but then we got a lot of people from a lot of different sources to put in capital that were not looking for I need to make 15% return on my money. They weren't looking for anything other than job creation, economic development, poverty reduction, hiring people with certain skill sets that might not otherwise get a job but for this project.
Right.
You find all of those people and you put those people together and you form this partnership of sort, and that's why I call it a public-private partnership. It's not a document that each one of them signed that they're all going to be partners together.
Okay.
It's kind of like a moral commitment that all of them agree to, that I'm going to work with you in this thing and we're going to make this project happen.
Right.
And and most of the times that are people that are in these kinds of things with you, if things don't go right, they'll try to pitch in and help you out or find somebody that can help you out.
Because like you said, they're morally committed to the project. They agree with the end game and the goals of the project and say we'll do whatever we can to make the project work.
Exactly. So you get all of these kinds of people. And these projects are long and laborious. They take a lot of time to put together. We did that with a grocery store. We started working on that grocery store in 2000, and we got the grocery store open in 2005. We started working on the Manhattan Casino in about 2010. We got that open in 2000, and it was about 3 or 4 years because we had some headwinds that we ran into there.
Right.
And we actually started looking at the project way before then, back in Baker's administration, when they were pressing us pretty hard to see if we would be interested in getting involved in the project.
So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then what we'll do is when we come back from the break, we'll talk about the Manhattan Casino, because that's been getting a lot of press and some community conversation, and social media has been driving a lot of the thought process around it. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on it and get some of that historical perspective on the Manhattan Casino.
Absolutely.
So we'll be right back after this with more from the Lakeside Chat. Welcome back to the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, here with businessman, entrepreneur, and community development specialist, Mr. Larry Newsome. And we're talking about a lot of the projects, well, not a lot, we've specifically focused on a project that he worked on in Midtown, the Midtown Plaza. And he's been sharing with us a lot of information about the business world and the business modeling. And again, as I told you during the breaks, a lot of these conversations come up. Yes. And one of the things that you mentioned that I think it's important for us to understand, you said like when you have these models, and then in our communities those models don't work, and so it makes projects harder to get done. Would you tell us a little bit more about the infusion of capital and the availability of capital versus just not having qualified projects in the community to take advantage of it?
Okay. One of the big problems that we have in communities like ours, and it's kind of like a chicken or egg, which comes first. One of the problems that we have is just a dearth of capital, working capital. It is hard to get money in the community. It's hard to get money in any small business now.
Okay.
It really is. In this country, it's just hard to get money in the small businesses, and particularly in small business and what are considered distressed communities. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to do that for a lot of reasons. Number one, there's no models that show that if I put this thing here and I do these things, this is probably going to work and I'm going to make money. So the lack of models. And the other problem is just lack of market knowledge. What is it that I need to do in this community to get these people to buy my product?
Right.
And one of the problems that we've had historically is that the people in those communities have developed shopping patterns and habits that take them away from this community.
Okay.
So all of a sudden you're asking people to change their shopping habits, their shopping models, their shopping patterns, and for what?
And just let me stop you right like this. When you say we've developed patterns that take us away from the community, that means we spend our money with other people.
Exactly.
Outside of the community, we don't spend it with each other.
Exactly.
And that's a pattern that has been developed. And so if I'm a business person and I see a community is taking their money away, then I'm going to put the money in the away spot because that's where people are bringing it to.
Exactly. What my model says is I should put my store here. It doesn't say I should put my store in this community. But the problem is, as long as you follow that pattern, the businessman is not wrong for putting his money there if that's where people are going. The problem is that it never makes the community itself prosperous.
Right.
The community can never prosper if no resources are ever put and applied to the businesses and the issues that are in the community itself.
And that sounds very simple in theory. You should have a business in the community that has money. And so what are some of the challenges with, establishing a business in a community where you have revenue, you have, the opportunity to make money, if you can just redirect the people to get them to spend money with themselves?
Believe it or not, one of the things, and this has come home absolutely clear to me, particularly with the Manhattan Casino project, is that typically speaking, the people that give you money to do projects, they give you just enough money to do the project. Mm-hmm. They're not going to give you a lot more money than they can think you're going to need. If I need $3 million to build this building, they might give you $3.1 million or $3.2 million. Mm-hmm. When the fact of the matter is, you might need $4 or $4.5 million.
Right.
Because the one thing that if you start a business that's not a traditional business in a community like Midtown, you're going to need, and I've learned this the hard way, you're going to need a lot more working capital than you would need if I were building this in this community over here where people are going to. Because I have a model and it tells me how much working capital that I'm going to need to make this work. Well, I probably need 3 times as much here because I am going to have to be able to have the staying power to get myself into position where I can operate until those people understand the worth and the benefit that I'm creating in their community and start supporting me.
Right.
And that's not going to be the first day. Sometimes it's not the first year. To give you a perfect example, the typical grocery store has a model that it's going to take me 3.5 to 4 years to become profitable. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is that when you build a grocery store, people are already buying groceries from somewhere.
Right.
And you have to give them time to change their shopping patterns and shopping habits. Mm-hmm. And the problem, one of the real problems that we've had with this project, the Manhattan Casino, as opposed to the shopping center, is that my customers are the 8 tenants that I have in that shopping center. They're not the customers that those 8 that are coming to those 8 tenants. Those 8 tenants have to figure out how to make money from the customers and from the community.
You mean the tenants that are in the Midtown Plaza?
Yeah, the tenants in the Midtown Plaza, Walmart, and those other people that are there.
Yeah.
Now, if those people are successful and they're making money, well, they can make making more money than it takes to pay me rent. Well, they're going to do okay. But if they're not making enough money even to pay me rent, well, they're going to struggle.
Right.
But they're my 8 customers. Whereas with the Manhattan Casino, the community, the larger community is my customer. I can't rely on, there's nobody that has to pay me rent whether I make money or, or not. I have to rely on the customers. And I have to wait for customers' shopping patterns and habits to change over a period of time. One of the mistakes that we made that when we did this, because of cost overruns and some other things that happened in the community, is that it left us short of the working capital that we really needed to sustain you through that. This is, a lot of businesses new, a lot of businesses are new. One of the things, a lot of businesses that are brand new into a brand new marketplace, the ones that are part of a larger group usually wind up being more successful, not because they make money right off. It's because there's somebody somewhere making enough money to sustain them through that period.
And you know what? It's funny because we had a business person on our last show, Mrs. Sorry from the St. Pete Bulletin, and she was talking about how the St. Pete Bulletin is being able to be sustained because they have another paper that's out in California. And because of the success of the paper in California, it helps to offset the cost of doing business and running the St. Pete Bulletin. So I can definitely relate to what you were saying on that. But let me ask you this, because in getting people to change their habits and to do business with you, one of the criticisms about Sylvia's, it was customer service. So how would you respond to those people who say, yeah, I'll come if you treat me right? Because people complain about the service and the type of service that they receive. So how would you respond to that?
Well, let me tell you this. And the way I'll be absolutely honest with you. When we started up the Sylvia's, we went out into the marketplace and we looked for general managers because it was our intent to use a general manager to run the place for us. We had a lot of experience in the restaurant business, not that kind of restaurant business. So we went out and started looking for a general manager to run the place. One of the things that we ran into right off in this whole process was that there are very few black general managers that run restaurants anywhere. There's just not a bunch of them out there. So we started looking for managers, and we found one guy. The guy wanted $90,000 a year. We couldn't afford it. He was making $90,000 a year somewhere else. We couldn't afford him. So we settled based upon what our working capital were for a guy that we could pay maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year. Well, the truth of the matter is, for a venture that was new like we had into a new market, the cheaper alternative would have been, if we had the money, would have been to hire the $90,000 guy. Because it wouldn't have, it cost you so much in the long run. I mean, but there were so many other things that went into. Not only did we have a management problem, but we had a problem with the amount of time that we could spend training people. We had a problem with the people that we agreed to. Some of these people that gave us the money to do the project for where we were going to hire these people from. So let's just expand on that, just because it's kind of implied. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There were a lot of issues that went into the makeup of the decision. It just wasn't one thing that we didn't know what we were doing. And I just want to think about this point, because what you said, once people give you money, particularly for a project like this, you got to create jobs. And the jobs that you have are for a certain demographic. And what you're saying is like the time that you need to train people from that demographic was a lot longer. It was a lot longer and stronger, and you needed a lot more working capital to stay with that. Because training is an expense, right? Training is an expense.
We apologize, but during this part of the broadcast, we began experiencing some technical difficulties. We'll resume our conversation with Mr. Newsome responding to us asking what happened to the Sweet Bay grocery store.
struggle with the same issues. It's a
Right.
new market, new people, new everything.
Right.
And they struggle the same way we did. They were there for 7 years and never made a dime.
Wow. And
No.
that's why they ended up pulling out.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
never made a dime. It was a new
Right.
market. There's new customs, new all things.
And just as an
And they
owner
had the
developer-
working capital.
Right. They had the capital, but they still just
They decided after 7 years, I got to give this up.
right because it's not profitable.
It's not profitable, and I can't figure out how to make this work.
And a lot of people put the responsibility for that on you. Is that fair for the people?
My thought process is, whether it's fair or not, that's what happens in business. That's what happens in life.
But I mean, fair from the perspective of your role in the deal. Like, what was were you responsible for making sure that Sweet Bay made a profit?
No, my responsibility was not to make sure that Sweet Bay made a profit. But what we did do was we went by and asked. We had different things that they could. The city was trying to get themselves engaged in the process to talk to the customers. But at the end of the day, customers in Midtown have to develop the mindset that if I want my community to prosper, I need to figure out a way to support these businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to give you a perfect example, every grocery store that opened up didn't open up running, operating properly, full of peak efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
They got that way over an iterative process that sometimes take years.
Okay.
They just don't jump out there and know how to do it and know how to make it happen. It's an iterative process that takes many years to do sometimes, but it happens that way. But guess what? All of the people that are in the other communities stick with those businesses, and eventually they prosper.
Right. They don't abandon the business.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we struggle with is that we come in looking for perfection.
Mm-hmm.
When we walk through the door, and if we don't see that perfection, that just gives us the reason to say, all right, I don't like this place. Well, there's no sense in me changing my pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue the pattern that I had. When the better answer is, I'm going to see them through their difficulties, and at some point in time, if I demand that they perform better service to me, and I can see where they're headed in a direction to provide that better service for me, I need to stick with them until they get to the Holy Land.
Right.
To the Holy Grail.
And not do the murmuring out in the wilderness.
Exactly, because that is the only way I'm going to make the businesses that are in my community better. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I'm going to incentivize other businesses to come.
Right.
If you see me and say, I'm not coming, well, okay, you put me out of business, but how many other businesses did you put out of business because nobody is going to come behind me that want to put a business there because you didn't support me through my hard times? What gives you the idea that any new business that's going to come in and you're going to support them?
I'm with you. So if I'm a businessman and I'm watching, Brother Larry do business, and I see that he can't get support, and now I'm looking to see where I should put my business, I'm gonna learn from your experience.
You're gonna look, and that's what happens. Everybody learns from experience. If somebody sees me and I'm struggling, and they see the community hanging in there with me, guess what? That's a lot more incentive for me to think that if I do this, they'll stick with me too.
Right.
Rather than I'm not going to stick with you, I'm going to stick it to you.
Yeah.
And that's and if you're talking about people with capital, that's the way it works.
Right.
And I've been here for 45 years.
It was Manhattan Casino was closed for 45 years, right?
It was.
And then you said your first experience with the casino was.
I used to when I was a young guy, I started playing in rock and roll, soul bands when I was 15 years old. And I did that from the time I was 15 to 27. But boy, I learned a lot about people, learned a lot about a lot of things when I was playing in the band.
Yes, sir.
And I was just out behind the Manhattan Casino one night. I was 15 years old, listening to the band playing upstairs. I couldn't get in, but I really enjoyed it.
Right.
And my next experience was with it was when the city acquired the business, and I got Goliath Davis approached me about partnering with some people to see if we can get it open.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you what a lot of people don't realize is that the Manhattan Casino, the city got a grant from the federal government, $3 million, something like that, to do the Manhattan Casino. Mm-hmm. And they spent money on it. And, the $2 million, I think they saved about $200,000 or $300,000 to help out with a restaurant when the restaurant came. And that was the money that they gave us to put into it.
Okay.
But we invested over $6 million in the Manhattan Casino. We spent $2 million just in improvements to the building, to the Manhattan Casino. And this deal, the deal that we did with the Manhattan Casino, and when I say we, I'm not talking about me personally. I'm talking about, I got a whole host of people. I got people from Ohio to invest in the project. I got the federal government to invest in the project. I got the state government to invest in the project, because we convinced those people that if they take their $3 million, we could find a way to make this project work. And it was a public-private partnership that involved the city as well.
Again, but there's no documentation of it. It's just a moral commitment on a public-private partnership.
I mean, we have documents going to bed of what our legal responsibilities are to all of the people. But I'm just saying, we have documents to document everything we did.
Sure.
But the whole coming together is a public-private partnership where the governmental entities and the private people all put in money with the idea that we're going to put this project together and we were going to make it work. Now, typically speaking, what happens is, you try to get enough money out of these things to make them work. Our typical thing would be rent the space out to a restaurateur and hopefully they can make some money. One of the hard things in life would have been to get any restaurant
to come in
that could come in and underwritten the amount of cost that we had in that transaction to make it work without some, maybe if we could have gotten an Outback or somebody like that,
like a major chain, that would have that capital, like you said, to be able to sustain itself.
None of the major chains would have done that. The city tried. They talked to all of them. You name one, the city talked to all of them to try to get them, and they all, politely said no.
Because I read something where you wrote where originally you were kind of hesitant.
We were.
You didn't really want to do the project.
We were for the same reason. Because why? Think about it. The city has a building. They own the building. In order to put a restaurant in there, I was going to have to spend $2 million on a building that they owned. It wasn't going to be. And if
as a tenant, so who does that?
Nobody. For a restaurant, nobody invests $2 million in a building that somebody else owns for a restaurant. They just don't. I mean,
and that was what they positioned. They propositioned.
They got other deals for restaurant deals around the city. Most of those guys spent $300,000-$500,000 on their deals. We spent $2 million putting a restaurant
just in the building.
In the building. Never mind the equipment and all the rest of it. We invested $2 million in the building itself to make it presentable as a restaurant. Nobody did it. Nobody could have done it. Nobody would have done it. The idea is that these people gave us all of this money, and we made this thing up with the idea that we were going to put a new venture in this community. And what we were going to do was hire all of these people from this community to work in that restaurant, and we were going to learn together and grow together. And after a while, we we're going to have a pretty good deal there. Whatever reason, we had cost overruns to start with, and at the beginning of the day, we just didn't have the working capital that we needed to sustain us through the difficult times that we knew that we were going to have. It's not hard to make mistakes on something this new, this non-traditional. In fact, it is extremely easy to make mistakes on something this new. It's not hard. It's extremely easy.
And so with the cities and their responsibility to this process, because I also, again, just following some of it on social media, the deputy mayor said that, she was positioning it not as a public-private partnership, but as a tenant, landlord thing, where it was just you didn't uphold the terms of the lease agreement. How would you respond to that?
Well, my thought process is this. Like I said, when you do these kinds of projects, you do it with a basis that, we all said now we're going to put all, one good foot in front of the other, and this thing works. And if it doesn't work, you get back together and say, all right, what can we do to make this work? What can we do to, and then you work, the people, committed people working for plan, and they go down that. They don't say, well, you owe me some rent money, and all I'm going to give you is 30 more days to pay the rent, which means
that's their idea of working with you.
That was the idea, is I'm going to give you 30 more days or 60 more days to pay the rent. Well, guess what? I owe you more rent in 60 days than I owe you now. So if I'm in a business to lose the money or make money, is that a real strategy for helping me turn this business around? And the answer has to be clearly no. I mean, she said.
So did you present them with a strategy to turn it around?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, they said they met with us many times. What were we talking about all of those many times?
A strategy to turn
the business around, and what we thought was going to be necessary to turn it around. They just flat out, we asked them to assist us in getting a loan from that was guaranteed by the federal government. The way the loan works is, if I need, I'm just using an example, I need $100,000. I can go to Bank A. I can go to Bank of America and say, I want $100,000. The bank look at this thing, I'm losing money. They're not going to loan me the money.
Right.
But if there's a federal guarantee on that loan where the federal government says, all right, if this you don't pay them back, I'll pay them the money.
Yeah.
Guess what?
They'll give you the loan.
I'm getting the loan.
Because the money's good.
The money is good.
Right,
So the
right.
federal government guarantees a loan.
Okay.
Now, I can't apply for these loans directly. I have to apply for them through the city.
Okay.
Because the city, because what supports that loan request is a CDGB money that the local governments get from the federal government.
Okay.
And basically they say if this loan don't get paid back, I'm reducing the amount of CDGB funds you get back until I pay it off.
Okay.
So the city has some level of risk that they're not going to get money from the federal government. It doesn't mean that they got to take money out of their pocket to pay it themselves.
It's just money that they wouldn't get in the future,
it's
possibly.
Just possibly to get in the future if none of this works. And that was what we had asked them for, to participate in a loan to give us the working capital that we needed, because it was clear to us after a period of time, we tried to see, well, we can run this business, we can make enough money out of it, maybe we can generate the working capital. And when that was clear that that was not going to happen, we went back and asked the city in August. Well, it's August now, about a year ago, to assist us in this process. And every step of the way, we got, we spent several times working on several different strategies, and the answer that we got back. And they did agree to give us some concessions on some things, not other things, but they were absolutely adamant that they weren't going to try to help us with the working capital.
And that seems like that was the biggest thing.
That was the biggest thing that we needed to make it work.
Right.
And I tell you what, whoever else gets in that place, they're going to run into the same issues that we did, the same problems.
Because
that we
again,
did.
that model that they started
There's no
with,
model.
Right.
And people like to say, well, if I just do this and I just do that. To tell you the truth, you can do everything right and still run into problems. That's why the working capital is so hard. Do you think the GTE doesn't know how to run a credit union?
Right.
They've been running credit unions for 30, 40 years. I bet you dollars to a donut the GE is not making a dime down there where they are.
Right.
Not because they don't know how to run credit unions, they don't know how to run one in this market.
Right.
And so they have to have the working capital, keep working at it until they figure it out.
And then when they find it, then they can start to really generate profit.
They'll start making some profits at this point in time. Same thing. I don't know Walmart's making any money right now, but I would tend to doubt it.
Right.
Probably they got to be in there for another year before they get to a profit-making standpoint.
Right.
So that's what I'm
and
saying.
then just a question, because again, I know that the time is on us.
Sure.
But, with the rents, I know that was a question. Past due rents, all that stuff has been settled. And
actually, we paid. We after we got in the litigation, we required to deposit the rent in an account with the clerk of the court, and the rent's in the account. They didn't care about the rent. They want us out of there.
Okay.
That's what this boils down to. The city wants us out of there, and it didn't matter if we paid the rent or anything else.
Right.
They wanted us out of there.
And so you think, and what do you think is motivating them to have you out of there and having that space vacant? How does that benefit the city?
That's a good question. And
I understand this would be speculation. So.
well, my thought is, there could be a lot of reasons for that. We got into a litigation. We got into a lawsuit with the guy that we bought the Popeyes from.
Okay.
And that lawsuit went on for 7 or 8 years. We won most of the legal battles that we had. We didn't win the last one. That's how he was able to close us down. And by the time we got the money to open back up, Popeyes had pulled their franchise.
Okay. Because I remember that was part of the conversation too.
But the mayor's brother was attorney representing the other guy.
The mayor's brother represented the guy who was in a lawsuit against
me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's a new development. Breaking news. You heard it here first. Right? But I mean, so
he came. The mayor came into this with a certain perspective about me.
Okay.
A certain perspective about the Manhattan Casino. A certain perspective about a lot of things, most of which were negative.
Okay.
To start with. So when you come into those kinds of situations, what can you do?
Right.
My thought is.
And so he's going based upon the data that he has, which is a negative perspective and feedback from people that I guess would be close to him and close to some of the litigation and things that you would.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind sharing, like the Popeyes experience. What was that like, just from a business perspective?
Well, I think it's probably better off that I don't say a lot about the Popeyes thing, other than the fact that we got into litigation with that guy shortly after we bought that store, and we were in litigation with him since we bought it. Matter of fact, there's still litigation going on right to this day about the Popeyes, and it's been closed for over a year now, and the litigation is still going on.
And these are actions that you initiated?
No, I didn't initiate any actions against him. He initiated actions against me.
Okay, got it.
And like I said, he initiated several actions against me, most of which he lost.
Okay, got it. All right, so anything else that you'd like for the community to know about just UDS? What are some of your future plans and projects, and anything that you'd like to...
I'm not sure I have any future plans and projects. This one has been a very sobering thing for me. It really has. I love St. Petersburg. I've been here for 45 years. I, wanted to do projects in this community that would benefit the community, and I know that the way I was doing them was the only way they were going to happen.
Right.
Believe me, if we had not stepped up and spent the money on the Manhattan Casino would still be sitting down there with a dirt floor in it.
Yeah.
Because nobody, from a market perspective, would have came and put $2 million into that building to fix it up. And you know what? The city wasn't going to do it either.
If they were, they wouldn't have took 45 years to do it.
Exactly.
Right.
The city wasn't going to do it. They weren't going to do it. We took it upon ourselves to underwrite the risk and to do it.
Right.
And and where we are right now is we're fighting over rent and landlord issues. That my thought process is, well-meaning people probably could have worked out. If this had happened in probably 80% of the communities in Florida, we would not be sitting there having this conversation. This would have gotten worked out, and we'd have moved on to somewhere else. Now, why it didn't get worked out, people can speculate and they can say whatever they want to. And and when I wrote that article in the paper, I didn't write it because I was trying to force the mayor into anything. I simply wanted the community to know what happened.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted you to come in and spend this time with us.
I simply wanted the community to know what happened.
Right.
And that's where my mindset is.
Definitely appreciate it. Well, we see the work that you're doing. We appreciate it, and we hope that that's not the last development. Because if that didn't work in Midtown, we got a corridor on 49th Street that can use some work, man.
Well, my thought process is this administration runs that too, and my thought process is that maybe me and a future administration might be able to work together on something, but I doubt seriously me and this particular administration is going to work on anything. I don't know. This has just been a peculiar time.
Right.
One thing I am concerned about, though, and I think that the people in Midtown and this quarter need to be concerned about it as well. The city is looking to spend to renovate that 85 acres of land where the Tropicana is. My hope is that they'll be able to work something out with the Rays and that they'll stay there. My gut tells me that that's not going to happen.
Right, that the Rays will stay?
My gut tells me that the Rays are not going to stay there.
Right.
And my thought is, one of the issues is that this city is going to have to address. If they want somebody to spend $1 billion on that site, and I know they're kicking around numbers in the $700-800 billion range for redevelopment of that site, none of it's going to work unless they find a way to address the issues in Midtown.
Right.
None of it. And even if it does, it's not going to work anywhere near as well as it would if they did take the time to address the issues in Midtown. So this, to me, is a critical time in the life of this community. When they built the stadium and moved all of those people away from there and all of those businesses away from there, all kinds of promises were made. Do you see? Can you point to anything in Midtown that you could see as a saving grace for all of what they said was going to happen as a result of that stadium being built? Well, guess what? There's an extremely likely possibility that you're not going to see anything the next go round either, unless people, of goodwill, get together and they figure out what they want to see happen to Midtown, and they press their case forcefully.
Right.
Because if they don't press their case forcefully, we will have a repeat of the stadium, the dome project again.
Right.
We'll have it again, and you will not see any appreciable benefit to Midtown, but you will see a lot of stuff that happens on that thing. They were always talking about attaching that project to downtown. I never heard anybody say anything about attaching it to Midtown.
Right.
Because Midtown is what they want to attach attaching to Midtown is their challenge.
Right. And so you want to go where, like what you said, is where the capital is and where the money is, so they'll attach it to a project.
Exactly. They come up with a good enough project, they might be able to raise money. But my thought process is, in that raising of the money and doing all of that, they need to figure out how to do something to have a positive impact on the lives of the people in Midtown as well. Because if they don't, my thought process is that's just another thing where they took your land and didn't give you anything for it.
Right. And so if we could do this, I know time is of the essence, but would you be willing to come back and spend some more time with us at a later date?
Sure.
And just keep us up abreast on a lot of these moves, because our community, we're not as savvy and we're not into the details that much, but knowing, your history with the city, it'll be something that we can appreciate.
That's why I decided to do what I do, because I know that over the years I've gained a specialized knowledge of a lot of things. And one of the things I've gained a specialized and intimate knowledge of is working with the city of St. Petersburg and what they can do and what they can't do, what they will do and what they won't do.
Right.
Because my thought process is, when the city wants to help for-profit, non-profit businesses on the north side of town, they find ways to do it.
Right.
But rarely ever do they have that same initiative on the south side of town. And one of the reasons that they don't is because we don't have enough people pushing back on them hard enough to do it. What we have is what you typically see on Facebook.
Yeah.
When any controversy comes up, you got the city supporters on one side, and you got the people that are supporting whatever's going on the community on the other side, and they get the squabbling going on between us, and they basically ignore the community
and they're moving the ball all the way down the field.
And they're moving the ball.
We shouting across the field at each other.
Exactly. While we're shouting across the field at each other.
Yes.
Whatever they want to happen is what happens, and whatever might be in the community's best interest almost never happens.
Right.
I'm just telling you, that's how it works and that's how it goes.
Until the people decide to make it.
And my thought is that until we figure out how to get ourselves organized enough as a people to say enough, we want things to happen in our communities the same way they happen on the north side. I tell you, it's funny as hell. I was reading an article that was in the paper Friday about what's that venue that we have downtown where they have the entertainment?
Is it Janice Landing?
No, it's the place where they have the concerts and stuff.
Mahaffey Theater.
And I read an article where they gave a person that I respect a lot, Bill Edwards. Bill Edwards has helped me a lot over the years, and I really appreciate Bill. Where they signed a new contract with Bill to run the thing for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And it said that in the previous contract, they subsidized the place for him, and the subsidies ran as much as $1 million.
Wow.
While they were trying to get to a point where they could run it without the subsidies.
So subsidy for the average person, that means they got some help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
And you read all of this. No, the city shouldn't be giving private folks money, for profit money to do stuff. And a perfect example of that's exactly what they do on situations where they want to.
Right.
And when they don't want to, they make up all of these issues and arguments about where they shouldn't.
Right.
They got 3 or 4 things on the north side of town that the city subsidized. And they got the Coliseum, they got the Mahaffey, they got Sunken Gardens.
Okay.
What are they subsidizing on the south side of St. Pete?
It's a good question. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll let you go.
All right.
Thank you.
What are they subsidizing? I'm just asking. What are they subsidizing on the deal that they got for the land across the city in St. Petersburg on the south side? Basically, what those companies that out of that, they get cheap land, they get tax rebates for 10 years, and they get all kinds of incentives to hire the employees there. Mm-hmm. And what does the community get in exchange? What they get in exchange is I promise that I might hire some people from Midtown.
Right.
Not that I'm going to hire people from Midtown, but I promise that I might hire some people from Midtown.
Right.
And I guarantee you, if they do hire some people from Midtown, the vast majority of people won't be from Midtown.
Yeah.
And I I will bet anybody that wants to bet any money that 5 years from now, that will be seen as a straight gentrification project.
Okay.
The whole commerce. I'm just giving
just
this
kind of
is my opinion.
Well, just looking at history.
And I might be dead wrong. It might do all that they say, but I'm just looking at the history and how things roll in this community. And I will bet anybody, the mayor or anybody else, I'll put my $100 down today. That 5 years from now, that will be a gentrification project.
Wow.
And not because they didn't try to make it something else other than that, but because when you don't do anything to proactively stop something from happening like that, it happens anyway.
Yeah. Because those projects are designed for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they're just
that's just
designed.
the way it works. Yeah, that's just
exactly.
Right.
These people get there and they get to operate, and they're gonna go out and try to find the best, sharpest employees that they can get. They're gonna try to find, to be competitive and all of that. And it just, what happens is the natural flow of things takes over, because after the project's over, nobody's paying any attention, and then it's back to business as usual. And business as usual means that you get frozen out.
Yeah.
And believe me, my thought process is right now what's happening to the Midtown issue and how they're fixing the issues, how the market's fixing it. Gentrification is a market strategy for low-income neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's not.
Just sweep the dust into another area.
Gentrification is a market strategy for low-income communities like Midtown.
Right.
When you run out of space everywhere, people just come back over and start buying and taking over that community, and that's just not normal market forces that happens.
Yeah.
And when you look up 5 years from now, the community is entirely different from the way it looked before, because nobody did anything to stop it.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, if you don't want gentrification to happen, you have to have programs that proactively stop it.
Right.
You can't have programs like, well, I'm your landlord, and if you don't pay me the rent, I'm going to get somebody else in there.
Yeah.
And the person that I'm getting in there, based upon the money that I know that takes it,
they're going to be in the same predicament, right?
No, they ain't going to be in the same. I mean, they ain't trying to do what I tried to do.
Okay.
With the place.
They
like I said, market forces take over.
And so they won't make it. Yeah.
When the market forces take over, they're not trying to get the same market I was trying to get there.
Okay, that's true.
They're not trying to get the same customers. They're not trying to put a soul food restaurant there.
Right. So what do you think they're going to put there? You got any?
I have no idea. If I have anything
so it's
to do
a done deal. But it is a done deal with y'all? I mean,
no, it's not a done deal. We're still in litigation with them.
Okay. So it's a potential that you may be going back in business. You might
exactly.
Okay, well, that's
exactly.
good.
There is a potential.
That's good.
We're still fighting them.
Okay, you got it. Okay, that's what I was wondering about. If it was like, doors closed, no looking back. Or...
Well, they're closed right now, but we're saying they're closed illegally.
Okay.
And it'll be up to a judge to decide whether they're closed illegal. This is get worked out.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that the Kanika is a bad person. I'm not saying that the mayor is a bad person. My thought process is their vision is just way small.
Yeah.
And neither one of them have the experience that I think is necessary to do what's necessary to bring Midtown to its greatest. And they're smart enough. Kanika is an extremely bright lady. She just doesn't have an experience. If she's there for 10 years, I guarantee you she's going to have a very, very different opinion and outlook about things than she does now. Because she will have been there for 10 years and she will see and know exactly how it really works, as opposed to the pablum that they, just put out.
Yeah, because it's really an oversimplified thing, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks when you put out how, they're responding like this is just a tenant-landlord issue, and the community is buying into that, saying, okay. Yeah. But then when you mention, like, what tenant would invest that type of money into a building that they don't own?
Who would put $2 million into a building that you don't own for somebody else? Right. And my thought is, I run into difficulties. Your only answer to me is, well, you don't pay me the rent. You're gone. Well, you might get away from that now, but boy, it's going to be 45 years more before you see somebody else come in and take the kinds of risks that we did with you to help your city out, to help this community out, and you're going to dump on us like this?
Right. Then no, I wouldn't take that chance either.
Nobody else is either.
Absolutely.
Nobody else.
I can keep you here all day.
No, I gotta go.
Thank you.